Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the natal chart of Natalie Rupnow. And I just wanted to first state, some of you may know, but others may not. Natalie Rupnow was the shooter, in that Madison, Wisconsin school shooting. And I want to offer my prayers and condolences to the close friends and family members of the victims of this heinous crime, this terrible tragedy. And I'm going to be talking about some natal placements in her chart, transits that may have been tied in, with some of this behavior and, what she did. And she ultimately, I believe she killed 2 people and then she killed herself. And the thing about it is, okay, I got her, her birth date, but I don't know, time of birth, of course. There was some post on Tumblr that had her birth date as November 7th, 2009, Sun in Scorpio, Moon in Cancer. I had to improvise and do a solar sunrise chart, and I put the Sun at the spot as the ascendant. So, anyway. Well, Sun in Scorpio, could have like a turbulent life. Her basic fundamental character may have been one that was very, complex and, someone, that was, very secretive, mysterious, not always easy to understand. Positive side, she may have had, been, resourceful and resilient and had, sure, some good Scorpio, qualities. But unfortunately, I see this as a lot of, how Sun Scorpio may have manifested in a lot of, obsessive, type fixated, behavior. And her moon is in Cancer, and that unconscious side, inner self, may have been one that had, some nurturing qualities anyway, but may have been very moody, fickle, temperamental, overly emotional, sensitive, introverted. Based on the solar sunrise time, her south node makes a conjunction to the moon, which shows that, that could indicate, qualities of that moon sign that she really needed to get away from, more so than, most people that would express negative qualities connected with their moon sign. And I would say it could have played a role in her, having something negative connected, with the public, because the moon is connected with the public. And it's interesting because moon in Cancer, tends to have that need, for more introversion and home and family related activities. But, sometimes they are thrust into the, thrust into the spotlight. And, unfortunately, she was in a very negative way. And I think it might have had something to do with the South Node making the conjunction to her moon in her natal chart. Now, so just look at to see some other things I want to get at. Now, she had the Sun, making the square to Mars. Mars is a singleton and planet in her chart. It's the only planet in fire, so it can be more emphasized and more prominent and stand out more in the chart. Mars in Leo, can become upset and angry if humiliated, demoralized, demeaned, if not getting, that attention or being the center of attention. It shows that anger can be flavored with a lot of that Leo-like ferocity. And, Mars squared the Sun in the natal chart can give a nature that can be somewhat intractable and very resolute. I'd say especially more so being that they're both in fixed signs. Again, the Sun in Scorpio squaring her Mars in Leo. And, very impulsive and patient nature. And that also, too, coupled with the fact she has a preponderance of major astrological energy in fixed signs, which could give a very immutable, rigid and transigent, kind of nature. I'm sure likely most the other people, had to make the compromises in her relationships. She's probably very, unyielding, kind of nature. Now, I don't know her ascendant, of course, because I don't know the time of birth, but I mean, it's possible, naturally, that she could have had a much, she could have mutable ascendant, a more easygoing ascendant, which would kind of, could have balanced things out a little. But again, I don't know the time of birth, so I don't have her ascendant. Some other things, that stands out. The Sun conjunct Mercury in Scorpio. Well, Mercury in Scorpio, I would think, times could have, kind of morbid or some kind of mind could have a preoccupation with death and be morbid, and that the Sun making the conjunction to it can shine the light on it, so to speak, put more focus on that. And, the thing is, and I would say, too, the fact that the Sun, the Mercury making the semi-square to her Pluto could actually reinforce and reaffirm that, could give certain obsessive kind of thinking, I would say. Now, another thing I want to get at in her chart is that, when you talk about, the, something in her chart stood out to me, okay? The thing is, she has, I would call it, a stellium is really, defined, by, I don't know if it's by all astrologers or not, but it's generally, I believe, seen, as 3 or more planets and forming a series of conjunctions. Some people say it's 3 signs, 3 or more planets in the same sign, regardless whether they make a series of conjunctions with each other or not. But I noticed that Jupiter, Chiron, and Neptune, they form a series of conjunctions with each other, and it may not be perceived as a stellium, but I still think the energy can be very strongly integrated. And it's interesting, too, because in the solar sunrise chart, it falls in the 3rd house of early education, the school kids. Jupiter, so when you look at, like, energy, whether it's, stelliums that, have this energy, may not technically be a stellium, but 3, points in the chart, 3 points of astrological energy in a series of conjunctions. It could be very strongly integrated, and it could form, its astrological statement, because what begins with the first energy would culminate with the final one. Now, in this case, it's interesting because you have Jupiter at the beginning of it, and Jupiter can be connected with recklessness. Chiron is about wounds and suffering. Chiron in Aquarius, I think she may have had, gone through some suffering, perhaps due to feelings of ostracism or maybe not being able to integrate with society. And then followed by Neptune, and Neptune is connected with suicide. And then, also chaos. So again, you look at the stellium in the charts, the systematic breakdown, or in this case, maybe not technically a stellium, but it's still 3, important astrological energies that are forming a series of conjunctions with each other. I still believe it can, work very, the energy can be very integrated still, though it may technically not be a stellium. And another thing I want to get at is, in her chart, is that she also had another singleton. What's interesting, Uranus is the only planet in a mutable sign. So it just shows, again, this really emphasizes the fact she's only got 1 planet and based on the solar sunrise chart, 1 major astrological influence in a mutable sign. That, it just shows difficulty and really, I would say, adapting, being mutable, so to speak, being able to, kind of do, what others would want, her to do. And she probably just, had a very kind of unbending, intractable nature. But the fact that Uranus is in Pisces, Uranus in Pisces, again, a singleton planet, can be more emphasized, prominent, and stand out more in the chart. And what I would say with that is that could really, I mean, Uranus and Pisces can be about, sometimes goals, aspirations, and objectives that are nebulous and unclear. It could be dealing with friends that are unrealistic or deceptive or duplicitous. And this energy can be more emphasized because it is, it is a singleton. And it could also be escaping from society too, because Uranus is connected with society. Pisces is about escaping. Now, another thing too is that Pluto is also a singleton. So she's got 3 singleton planets in her chart. Pluto, Uranus, and Mars. And, you look at this, I mean, Pluto is about death and murder, morbidity. Pluto is in Capricorn, and negative manifestation, no generational. I think that could be about, murder that's really plotted and planned, premeditated. And again, the fact that this is a singleton planet, and again, it may be more emphasized, pronounced, and more prominent in the chart. And, some other things about that stood out. Transit. Now, she had the transit of Neptune, making a loose inconjunct to her natal Venus. And when you have inconjuncts in astrology, they could be about adjustments. It can indicate too much or too little of something. And, Neptune, with the inconjunct of Venus, it might be too much or too little of isolation, from one's relationships. Venus in the solar sunrise chart falls in the 12th house, so there may have been some limitations with that. Venus is at 29 degrees, which is an anaretic degree, crisis degree in astrology. In connections with, and Venus again is about our relationships, it's self-worth, self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, money, values, and being in Libra, it could have been some ambivalence, even more regarding those things as well, one's values. And Venus also has, is legal matters too, and thought that is interesting. I mean, of course, she killed herself, so she didn't have to face any, legal ramifications. But still, the fact that Venus, falls at that, the 29th degree, the anaretic degree. If she was alive, naturally, the legal repercussions would have been, much greater, than a lot of other people would face. And another thing too is that the transit of the South Node, made a conjunction to her Saturn at this time, which could indicate, Saturn going away, from authority, rules, regulations, working with the parameters of things, and because South Node is what we're going away from, and Saturn is connected with authority, it's connected with rules, regulations, parameters, our guidelines. And, the thing is, another thing that stood out to me is she also had transit Pluto, not making a conjunction based on the orb, but it was still fairly close proximity to her natal Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius, which may have given a little bit more power, unfortunately, to that dark side of the BML place. Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius could manifest in real, could be idiosyncratic behavior or very strong rebellious side. Taking it to a different level, perhaps, causing chaos, disruption. And, and Pluto does have, of course, rules death and murder, and the Black Moon Lilith, I would say, can have a connection with that as well. Black Moon Lilith is about obsession and fixation. It's very comparable to, Plutonian, energy. And, the thing, too, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to get at. Well, Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius can also, sadly, be wanting to cause chaos, in a group. Remember, the Black Moon Lilith is the negative manifestation of the sign, And, the thing is, in the solar sunrise chart, she has Gemini on the 8th house cusp. Gemini is naturally, connected, with, the early education. I find it interesting because the 8th house cusp is murder and death. Also, too, and the ruler of that Mercury makes a conjunction to her sun, so that could be an indicator of, having more, that, the death being more and the murder being more, not prominent, but more in the spotlight, putting more attention, getting more attention for this, unfortunately. And another thing, too, is about, she has Neptune in the solar sunrise chart, Neptune making a conjunction to the 4th house cusp of the end of life, which can manifest in the end of life due to a suicide. Neptune and Aquarius, being an Aquarius, maybe in more shocking, unpredictable, spontaneous fashion. And thing is, one of the rulers, which is Saturn, rulers of the 4th house, Saturn falls in the 11th house, so in end of life, in this case occurring, in a group-related, matter. And I'm just starting to say, I don't think there's really anything else I wanted to get at. I noticed that she was in her Mars return at the time, and also I believe the transit moon was in Cancer as well, which would indicate a lunar, return, as well. So, the emotional energy, may have been very high with her being in, sensitive Cancer. I don't know if there was some, I don't know what the motive may still be, or motives are still, they're still nebulous and unclear at this time. But, moon in Cancer, in the natal position can be, really, more sensitive to criticism and ridicule, maybe even more than the sun in Cancer, because the moon is our emotion, connected with our emotional nature and our sensitivity, and then if she was having the lunar return, it might have really emphasized, that energy even more. So, and again, I do offer my, condolences and prayers to the close friends and family members of the victims of this, and the people will be talking about, how to, limit this or stop or eradicate these, mass shootings or school shootings or what have you. But I don't even know if they're ever going to find a way to do this, because it seems like this has been a very continual problem, especially in the United States, I think. And when is it ever going? It probably will never stop completely. And people have to do, start to take, more action, through legislation, the government, whatever needs to be done to really do something about this, because it seems like there's often a lot of talk regarding these matters, but I don't know if there's really, how much action is really put into this. Is this something that could, I don't know if it could ever be stopped or eradicated completely, but hopefully, something like this, will be enough for a wake-up call. There's been enough of these wake-up calls already. I think people are getting tired of this. It's just getting very monotonous, hearing about these heinous shootings. So, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard, stay well.